Look, the UK is facing what most people call a housing crisis. House prices seem unaffordable, rents keep rising, and so many people, especially first-time buyers, feel priced out. But what is the housing market crisis? Where does it come from? And what does it mean for you in 2026? Hi, I'm Sam Fox, a mortgage expert here in the UK, and today we're going to be discussing this housing crisis. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, and if you need anything else from here, click on the link below, jump onto my website, it's packed full of information, and it'll give you some answers you're looking for. So let's get to it.
Our main story tonight, priced off the ladder.
Now, the housing crisis isn't just about expensive houses. It's kind of a mixture of shortage of houses, high costs and demand for outpacing supply. So putting it simple, it includes house prices being relative to income, a lack of homes available to rent or to buy, and rents rising faster than wages for many people. Now, I think about a house that we used to own. We rented it for £425. 8 years later, it's almost £1,000. That seems ridiculous. But people talk about a crisis in those conditions, which make it much harder than normal to buy or rent a house, or even a decent house for that matter.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony.
So how do we get here? Now, the nuances of this can vary wildly depending on who you ask and what side of the political or financial fence they sit on, which is a long gravy train if you start that, but here we are. An ageing population and the population boom of the UK after the Second World War through to the dawn of the 21st century has led to the country having 34% more people living right here in the UK. And despite a falling birth rate, we all still need a place to live, but are there enough houses? So everything from the shortage of social housing post Maggie Thatcher's Housing Act of 1980, if you remember that, and the lack of government-built property, allowing private house building firms to intentionally slow down production to increase the demand and therefore the prices. We're seeing a uniquely unfortunate time for the housing market, but have we seen this before? Wealth inequality was massive, leading to a government estimate that 89% of UK adults were in privately rented accommodation. A survey in 1913 stated on average people were spending around a third of their income on housing alone. Now stop me if this is all sounding a little bit familiar. Now bringing it back to modern times, and the outlook is once again looking pretty bleak. Looking at that figure of 89% of the population rented in 1913, minus government housing of around 1%, we had just 10% of us Brits owning our own home. But throughout the government schemes, economic booms, and the regrowth in the middle class, we managed to get 71% of UK adults owning their own home by 2003. But over the last 20 odd years, that number has started to shrink once more, with it hovering around 65% as the 2020s, with predicted of it declining further.
As the rising cost of property leaves more people unable to afford a home.
So one of the clearest measures of the crisis is the ratio of house prices to income. So in 2025, first-time buyer properties cost around 5.9 times average earnings, the lowest in a decade, but still very high by historical standards. Now, if the average lender on their website is advertising 4.5 times the salary as a max ceiling, but we know the average is 5.9, who's going to get us there? We need to take a look at that in a bit more detail, but there is a bit of a gap that needs to be looked at. Now, why does that matter? Well, decades ago, houses often cost 3, maybe 4 times your annual income. Even with recent improvements, people today need much higher income multiples, which means saving huge deposits or taking out massive loans. And as we know, the bigger the loan, a little tweak on the interest rates mean that your monthly budgeting is put under so much pressure. And that's when people start taking out more debt to service the big debts or consider downsizing and selling and moving or even going back into rented. Now, perhaps the biggest driver of the crisis isn't just the demand. It's not enough homes being built.
There is a dire shortage of new homes in Britain.
So from April 24 to September 25, about 231,000 net additional homes were delivered in England for people to buy. But contrary to that, the government estimates that the UK currently needs around 300,000 new homes per year just to keep up with the demand. So you can see here, we're missing tens upon tens of thousands of homes every year, What's that going to do, people? It's going to put pressure on the market. It means there's more people trying to buy less housing stock, so it creates more competition over here. People are bidding more to try and buy them houses, and then it creates this extra bubble. So where we're seeing 5.9 times your salary to buy a house, there's not enough houses being built, so it's going to keep increasing. Where do we go from there? Now, the housing issue didn't just happen overnight. It's decades in the making. It's not like I woke up tomorrow and going, hey guys, look at what I found. This has been around for years. So to give you some context on this, over the last 50 years, house prices in the UK have grown by over 2,300%, whilst wages have only grown 1,400%, meaning prices are growing much faster than pay, right? And if you're doing your own research, looking on Rightmove, you're probably thinking, holy shit, how am I going to afford this house? And meanwhile, the proportion of housing for affordable or social rent in England fell from 20% in 2000 to around 16% in 2023. So social housing stock has even shrunk in recent years due to insufficient replacement or demolished homes or sold homes or people buying under the right to buy scheme and that kind of thing. They're now owning the property rather than housing associations, so their stock is going to be reduced. So these trends are going to mean there's fewer affordable homes. Fewer starter homes are being built where people want to live, and sometimes starter homes could be a smaller house in a less desirable area. They're a bit more cost effective, but they're used for rentals and not affordable rentals, high rentals as well. So the stock in the right areas isn't available for the right people.
New figures suggest more than 1/3 of young people are spending much higher proportions of their income on rent.
Now look, it's not just people looking to buy a home. People who are renting, they're also feeling it as well. Now, calling back to the 1913 survey, which states that the average rental was 32% of the average Brit's wages, as the reports at the end of 2024, it was exactly the same, with its trending upwards, even leading to it being 53.6% in London. So over half of someone's salary in London, on average, is being spent on rent. How are we supposed to go away? How are we supposed to enjoy the finer things in life when over half of the income in the London areas could be spent on rent? Now, rents have continued to rise in many parts of the UK. Even while some areas are slower price growth or significant declines in the house prices, they are still on the increase. I used the one before. An old house that we had rented at £425 a month is now £950 just 9 years later. So rising rent relative to wage growth makes saving for a deposit even harder, let alone energy bills increasing. I don't know when the last time you went and did a couple of bits of shopping was, but a bag of shopping in Aldi is still 50 quid, 60 quid now. So even the home saving tips we can provide, everything that we are spending money on has increased as well. So what do these big numbers mean in practical terms for a first-time buyer or renter? Saving a deposit still takes time because houses cost many multiples of your income. You might actually consider locations outside of big cities to find affordability. You know, the supply shortages mean competition remains really strong in areas with agents having multiple viewings on the same day for people in very similar situations to you. So it can be a little bit pressured. So the UK housing crisis combines high prices, supply shortages, rents that stay high, and demand that just won't go away. Now, understanding the roots of this crisis can help you plan better. Now, whether you're saving for a deposit, thinking about renting for longer, or weighing up where to buy next, it all adds into this for you, and you need to make sure you're planning for this. If you're looking to purchase a house, you might have to budget for a bit more. If you're buying a house with a 10% deposit, you might have to save a little bit more, just to factor in that if you do need to bid higher because there's so much demand, you can comfortably afford it, one from a mortgage point of view, and you have the adequate deposit available. Now, if you've made it this far, like we have, then credit to you. The housing crisis isn't going away. It's not anything that's new, but it does mean as a first-time buyer or any sort of home buyer, whether you're an investor, you're looking at a buy-to-let, increasing your portfolio, you do need to be really savvy because everything's a little bit more expensive on all fronts when it comes to property. Now, if you do want to take a deep dive into all this information, all you need to go is to the link below on my Mortgage Expert website. There's tools, calculators, guides, there's videos, everything you need to help you make informed choices. Do me a favor, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.